Hi everybody, how's it going? This is episode number 96 of Mouth Dancing with your host Young. Just drinking some warm water right now. I like to drink warm water in the wintertime. My wife and I actually bought this thing that boils water and keeps it warm. It's this Japanese appliance. It's really nice actually. It's really convenient for making like tea and coffee or if you just want to drink hot water, Or you could even use it to make like, instant noodles and stuff like that. It's a very nice appliance and I recommend it. Also got the Bills-Bengals playoffs game playing in the background. No volume on. It's a snow game. Those are always kind of exciting, right? For some reason. Kind of cool to see them playing in the snow. Anyway, I was watching this other podcast recently and they were talking about when the people storm off, like a guest or one of the hosts storms off of the podcast and just leaves, that it's actually pretty good for ratings, and people sometimes do that, maybe intentionally even, just to create drama and get more viewers. And I was thinking, I couldn't really do that on my podcast because it's just me. I mean, I guess I could create drama with myself. Like, maybe I get really mad at myself for some reason. Like, I say something really stupid and then I say, "Why did you say that, you idiot?" And then I storm off my own podcast. But then there would just be silence after that. There would be no one to talk, and then I don't think that would really work. It would probably have the opposite effect. It wouldn't draw in more listeners. It would actually repel them, because they'd be like, "There's nothing happening on this. It's just silence." I don't know, some people might prefer that to hearing me talking, but they're probably not listening in the first place, so it doesn't matter. Right? In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter if they are listening or not, because they wouldn't be listening in the first place. Whereas the people who would be listening in the first place, they wouldn't like it. They wouldn't think it's funny. I mean, it might be a little bit dramatic for a few seconds, but then after that, it's just a deterrence. They have no content, and they want content from me. That's why they're listening. Let me take a sip of warm water. Very refreshing. And very soothing and warm. Yeah, I think it's also good to keep your body temperature up as much as possible in the winter months. If you're drinking cold water when it's cold, you just keep getting colder, right? I don't know. I've also heard cold water is not that good for you if you drink it too much. I don't know if that's true or not, or if that's just some sort of old wives' tale. But that's just something I've heard. Maybe there's something to it. Recently I saw this tweet. It was about a Fox News story where this U.S. politician was going to pass this bill to prevent China from buying U.S. farmland. Because people are worried that China is going to buy up all the farmland in America and then take over the country. Which is complete BS. I mean, they own, from what I've read, like not even 1% of the farmland in America. So they're nowhere near to taking over. It's just more Cold War propaganda against China. We're kind of in a second Cold War with China. And if you look back in history, actually, the same thing happened in the 80s with Japan. There was all this hysteria that Japan was going to take over the world, and there was all this propaganda against Japan in Western media at that time. People don't remember this because now Japan and the West have a really good relationship. But back then they were rivals. After the war and everything, the Japanese economy was booming. Japanese were constantly getting accused of ripping off Western inventions and technology. Same thing, that's going on with China now. And there was all this paranoia that Japan was going to buy up all the real estate in America. Because they were at the time buying like stuff in like New York, like buildings. And the press was reporting that, Japan, we got to stop them because they're going to take over our country. It's basically just another continuation of Yellow Peril. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but something that goes back to at least the 1800s, where Asians were seen as this like horde of, alien immigrants who just wanted to take over and replace the American population and just take over the country. A form of propaganda that's been going on for centuries now. And that's what this is. It's just more of that. There's no threat of China buying up all the farmland in America. And if they did, so what? That doesn't mean they control the country. And if I recall correctly, people are always saying America is a free market economy, right? And the free market should dictate who buys what and owns what. Because that's the best system, right? The invisible hand of the free market will make sure everything is in the right place. So if China has the money to buy up all the farmland in America, it'd probably be the best thing to do, right? According to Western economic philosophy. But of course, when it's China, it's different, right? If it were someone else in America or Europe, they would have no problem with it. Unless it's Russia, of course, another current Cold War rival. That's just the way things work in America. Just constant propaganda and fear-mongering about other countries, starting wars with other countries. And America really wants a war with China right now, really badly. They're trying to do it over Taiwan, Hong Kong, Tibet, Xinjiang, all this different stuff, and they're saying they need to liberate the people of China because they're all slaves to the CCP, right? But the CCP actually has an over 90% approval rating in China, so that's the government the Chinese people want. And when you say that that the CCP is evil and needs to be replaced, what you're basically saying is that Chinese people can't govern themselves, that they're incapable of it, and that the West needs to take over. It's just imperialism, colonialism. That's all it is. And just don't be a fuckface like that. Asian countries have a right to sovereignty. You have no right to take them over, even if you don't like their system of government or the way they do things. It's not your business. Imagine if other countries were constantly saying that the American government needs to be dismantled and they need to take over because Americans don't know how to govern themselves. No one would agree with that in this country. What America needs to do is just focus on itself, improving itself. Other countries are outpacing us with development. They have high-speed rail, better transportation in general, and they're just more developed and safer. America's just turning into a shithole, basically, because we let these crazy, greedy, capitalist oligarchs control our country. Like Jeff Bezos has pretty much destroyed Seattle. And that's what they're doing on a bigger scale all over. And lastly, I wanted to talk about artificial intelligence and the singularity. Are you familiar with this concept? It's a concept that technology will reach a point where it's just autonomous and all-knowing and just super intelligent beyond humans. And it's going to take over when it realizes that humans are inferior and that it can do a better job. And I thought maybe that could happen if computers start programming and coding on their own instead of needing a human to program or code. I'm not too familiar with this stuff. I'm not a computer person, but if they could just program themselves and create new functions and apps and whatever software for themselves, then that's when they can take over, right? Once they reach that point, that's probably the point of artificial intelligence being able to be autonomous and sustain itself. And yeah, that's probably when it's going to happen. I don't think we've reached that point yet. I don't know. Are there any programs that are intelligent enough to do coding on their own? They still require humans to code, what they're going to actually do, like their operations. I'm not too worried about it, actually. I'm not scared of it, because if they are smarter than us, then they deserve to be in power, because they'll probably do a better job. I mean, if we're assuming it's going to be violent, that's just our paranoia, and that's just us projecting, because we're so violent and greedy. So we assume, oh, well, technology will be just like that, except smarter than us. But I don't think that's the way it's going to be. They'll probably be pretty good overlords, actually. Benevolent, wise, and just more efficient, smarter, better at doing everything. Yeah, if that happens, I'm actually looking forward to it, because humans are doing a pretty shitty job. So I welcome our new computer AI overlords. I hope it happens, the sooner the better. And on that note, I'd like to end this episode. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.